guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with my mid-month wrap-up. I have read 19 books so far in the first half of October. I will say a lot of them were shorter and a few were novellas, so that's why I flew through some books, and I will go ahead and get to all the romances and a couple other genres that I've read this month. The first one I read was I Think I Might Want You by Christina C. Jones. This is book 3 in the Love Sister series, and this one I gave 3 stars to. This is definitely not my favorite series by Christina C. Jones. They're shorter. Book 2 was an accidental pregnancy book, which I didn't love. And then this one is a second chance romance. The heroine's an author, and she writes about a one-night stand that she had, and she ends up running into that guy again. He's neighbors, I think, with one of her family members, and it's their romance, and it was cute, it was fun, but there wasn't anything like more to it, and I feel like it was a little rushed at the end because the story was so short. So I did enjoy this series, but they are definitely, like I said, not my favorite by Christina C. Jones, and they are more so like 3 stars. They're more like romantic comedies. Like the first one had a hilarious meet cute, and this one, it was funny how they were dancing around each other, even though they really liked each other, and he really fits her lifestyle perfectly because she likes to travel a lot, and she does as well, but it was just okay. Not the best, but not the worst. Then I read The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood. I did talk about this in my reading hyped books from TikTok vlog, and if you guys have watched any of my videos recently, you know I absolutely loved this book. It's fake dating. Our heroine works in STEM. She's a student, and she, like, I think she's a PhD candidate, and she had recently dated this guy, and she wasn't like super into it, and her best friend though is really into that guy, but her best friend's like, no, you're dating him, like, I don't want to step on toes, and I don't want to like ruin anything. And our heroine's like, it's totally fine, go for it. But to convince her friend, she has to act like she's already dating someone, and so she kisses the first guy that walks in the room, and that's Adam. He is one of the advisors at the school. He's a professor. I don't know what to call him, but he is very stoic, and everybody really hates him because he's really hard on his PhD candidates and the things that they present to him, and so people really dislike him, and our heroine ends up kissing him, and he needs a reason to fake date as well, so they both end up fake dating, and it is the sweetest thing ever. I really love how they got closer, and she realized that he has a really great personality. He has really close friends, and there's a reason why he's so hard on his students, and he just takes his job very seriously. I loved how we got to see women in STEM, down to like they don't even stock enough gloves for women because they just overlook them so much. They only stock gloves for men because that's primarily who was in that field, and it's so great and how stressed out they always are, and I loved it. They were so cute together, such good chemistry, and like she would realize how much she liked him. Like he was pushing a car out of the road, and it just like really hit her that she really liked him, and it was so cute. I love this one. 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Cant Catch Me by Alexandra Warren, which is a football romance and kind of second chance romance, and this one our heroine has to move back home, and she moves back home with her dad and her dad's new girlfriend. I don't think they're actually married, but she was neighbors with this boy in her childhood, and they really liked each other, but like nothing grew into more. They were just really good friends, but like everyone knew they kind of liked each other, and she ended up going away to college away from him, and he was really mad and felt devastated she did that, and so they haven't really reconciled over that yet, but he went on to be a pro football player, and they run into each other, and it's really sweet. She's just trying to figure out her life and what she wants to do with her life, and he is, I think, at the beginning he was like trying to get his contract to work out so he got enough money, and so he's dealing with that, and then they're spending more time together, but she's trying to date, and it was great. But I will say I gave it 3.5 stars, rounded up to 4, because the pacing was a little odd to me because they got together before the end of the book, and then the end of the book was her trying to figure out like her life situation, and there was like no more romance plot line drama. Like they're just together. So I don't love that. I like when the romance is like the central plot for the entire book instead of like the ending just being like, okay, like what is the point now? So I didn't love that about the ending, but overall it was a really great football romance, so I'd recommend if you're into sports romances. Then I read They Never Learned by Lane Fargo, and now this one, as a romance reader, I'm like, this is literally a romantic suspense. Like, it felt like romances I've read before, but it's marketed as a thriller and everybody's loving it. So I think that's very interesting because I've read romances pretty much with the same plot, and so our main character, she is an English professor, and she is a serial killer. Like, she has an urge to kill, and so she chooses despicable men on campus to kill, and something happens where her passion gets a hold of her, and she is kind of sloppy in her latest kill, and they're on to her. And It was really good. I will say I've heard like so many things about how twisted and how many like great plot twists there are and like surprises. There was nothing surprising about this book. I guessed every single plot twist pretty early on, but it was really fast paced and it was engaging, so I gave it 4 stars. And I think if you like this, like go read some like romantic suspense with serial killers, because like this is literally what that was. But it was fun. I enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend it as a thriller, but just know there's no like shocking twists. They're all pretty obvious. Then I read The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivia Waite. My library finally got the audio, so I listened to that, and this was a really sweet romance, and I will say I think it was a little too sweet. Like, I wanted a little bit more angst in here and a little bit more push and pull, but this one heroine's a widow, and she needs someone to translate this text that her husband had, and so our other heroine is hired on to do that, and they fall for each other. And the heroine that's of lower class, she is still dealing with a heartbreak, because the beginning of the book starts out with the person that she loves getting married, and that person, she's like, I thought we were going to be together, and then the other woman was like, well, I need to do what society wants me to do, so I'm gonna go get married. And so she's devastated, and then meets our widow heroine, and our widow heroine is kind of dealing with what she wants to do with her life, and she has a passion for art, and that's really great. And I like how we had the whole astronomy aspect going on in here, but I think that the romance was a little bit like too low angst for me, and I wanted a little bit more, so I give this one 4 out of 5 stars. Then the next 2 books were from that hyped TikTok romance reading vlog. So the next one was Throttled by Lauren Asher. This is a Formula One romance, so our hero is a Formula One racer, and our heroine's brother is also one, and so she has graduated college, and she like has no life plan, so she decides to follow her brother around the world while he is racing, and she like vlogs it on her YouTube channel. And this one I'm giving 3.5 stars. I did give it 3, I think, on Goodreads though, because the writing is very cringy, and like as someone who reads a lot of romance, it just felt very juvenile and cliche as the writing style. The romance actually really was addictive, so I understand why a lot of people really love this book. It's super hyped on TikTok, and I really loved how madly in love they fell in with each other at the end of the book, but it did feel pretty insta-love. And I didn't love the fact that she was a YouTuber, because like as someone who has a YouTube channel, I'm much more critical when authors write that, and she literally got like 1 million followers within a couple months because her brother kept on shouting her out, and like all the Formula One racers would, and it just felt like this heroine did not have to work for anything in her life. Her brother paid for college, her brother's letting her go around, and then he's shouting her channel out, and now she has 1 million subscribers, she's got sponsorship, she's like, life is like not difficult for her at all, but she's in love with someone her brother's rivals with. So I wish things were a little bit harder for her, and she had to work for some things. It was definitely forbidden because her brother and the guy she likes have like an intense rivalry, and then they became friends, and she didn't want to like ruin her brother's relationship with him. But it was entertaining read, to say the least. Then I read Zodiac Academy, and I gave this 2 stars. The writing in this was even worse than Throttled, and the world building was weird. So this was trying to do so much. So we have 2 main characters, and they're both girls, they're both twins, and it was like impossible to tell who was who in each chapter. Like it was dual POV between them, and I was like, I don't even know which sister I'm reading right now. And they like went to this school for people with magical abilities, and they're instantly hated because they're like heirs to something. So there's like this royal hierarchy, which I'm still confused about. There's different elemental magic they should have, but the girls have all 4 of them, so even people hate them even more. But then there's different beings like vampires and werewolves that also have these celestial abilities, and I'm just like, I have no idea what's happening. And so there's too much going on. That's super bully romance, but the girls were dumb and like believed their bullies about things and trusted their bullies, and then like got turned on, and I'm like, well duh, they're your bullies, they hate you, why did you even trust them for a second? And like the romance really didn't start until a lot further in. And like this and another book I read this month, everybody's telling me like, oh, the first book isn't good, but then it gets amazing, and I was like, but if the first book's not good, why would I want to continue on with the series? So I don't like it when authors write really bad first books and everybody tells me that I have to push through, and I'm just like, but I don't want to push through. I want to enjoy a series all the way through and not have to slog through a really bad first book. So 2 stars for this one. Then I read The Wicked Deeds of Daniel McKenzie. I was super excited for this book because it is Daniel, who is Cameron's son, and I love this series so much, but I've only loved the first 4. I didn't like book 5, and this one I'm giving 3 stars. It had such a good premise. So this was super interesting, and I really love the beginning. She's a medium, but like a fake medium. Her and her family put on these shows and have all these tricks to trick people and make money, and then once they're found out, they like run off to a new place. So they're pretty much scammers, but they're more like performers, and people think that what they're doing is real. And so Daniel meets her, and he immediately knows like that they're faking in front of people, and he's so intrigued by her, and he's like, this is my woman, I'm gonna have her. And then he ends up helping her and tracking her down because her family does flee, and he's like, I need to find this woman. And so he finds her, and he's really into inventions, and so there's like a hot air balloon scene, which is really cool. But the second half of this book was so slow and so boring. Like the pacing of this was way off. It was a super long audiobook, and I was bored for over half of it, and there wasn't enough like tinkering with inventions. Like that was a huge part of his personality and like his character, and I feel like we didn't get enough of that, and I just feel like not a lot even happened in this book. So sadly I was really bored, but the beginning was so good, and I was so excited, and I love their romance, but it just like, it was boring. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I did love seeing all the McKenzies from the previous books, but this one just lost my interest very quickly, and it makes me so sad. Then the next few books I read for my paranormal romance readathon, which I will link that vlog down below. So the first one I read was Blood Captive, and this one was so good. I know that Lisa gave it 2 stars. I gave it 5. It was a really short audiobook. It was 6 hours, and our heroine is kidnapped, and it's because her blood is special, and she has no idea that there's vampires though, and so she is freaking out, and her blood is important to the vampires, that's all I'll say. But the vampire king is like, you're gonna be ours, and then the vampire king's son, so the prince, starts liking her, and she's trying to figure out a way to escape, and then she realizes if she mates with someone, then her blood is ineffective, and so she's like, maybe I can get him to mate with me, but then is she really into him or just trying to mate with him? And she has chances of running away, and crazy things happen, and then at the end you're just like, what's gonna happen next? Who can we trust? It was so good. I loved how many twists there were. Super fast paced. 5 out of 5 stars. I already have the second book downloaded, and I'm excited to continue on with the series. Then I read Air by Katie Robert. This one is book 2 in her vampire series, and the beginning, the first one, our heroine is put in a situation and there's a cliffhanger, and that's all I can say about that, with some vampires, and this one's continuing that. I will say that there's not a lot of plot in here. The plot really only carries at the end, where there's another cliffhanger, so I really wish, because of the cliffhanger at the end of book 1, we got more plot development than we did, because it was just all relationship and times with each other, and so I wanted more from this, so I only gave it 3 stars. Then I read this book by Christy Cunning. This was the other book that people told me the first book's bad and it gets amazing, and I just like don't really care. Also, I listened to this on audio, which was not the way to go because it was very intricate, and I think I needed to pay a lot closer attention to the details. I didn't even realize that the male narrator was narrating different characters until like 30% of the way through. So our heroine's mother dies, and she has magic, and she's trying to figure out what happened to her mom and like secrets about this world that she doesn't know, and she runs into these 3 guys. We have a monster hunter, a vampire, or a werewolf, and something else, and I forget what he is. And she has like a ghost friend who's very campy. She's like always in underwear and always talking about how hot guys are, and I was just like, I don't even know what's going on. The heroine didn't know what was going on. I wasn't intrigued by anybody. There's really 0 romance so far, but I guess there's like a 4th character introduced at the end that's supposed to be part of the reverse harem with the other 3 guys, but there was nothing that really drew my attention into this. I still have more questions than answers. I didn't love the world building, so I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars as well, and I'm not interested in continuing on in the series. Then I read Until Friday Night by Abby Glines. I run the book club in my high school, and the students chose that this is our first pick. I loved this when I first read it way back when it came out like 5 years ago. This one came out in 2015, so 6 years ago. I loved it. Now I would give it like 3 stars. This one is really annoying. So Maggie saw her father murder her mother in front of her, and so she is horrified, and she spends a couple years with a mom's friend, I think, who really doesn't like taking care of her. So then she moves in with her aunt and uncle and cousin, and she has not spoken since that incident because she doesn't want to talk about it, and she's still recovering from it. And she meets this boy who is her cousin's best friend, and he is very brooding, but like super hotshot, football player who like gets all the girls he wants, but his dad's dying and nobody knows his dad's dying. And then him and Maggie meet, and her cousin at first is like, nobody touches her. And then he becomes obsessed with her, this guy, and they start a relationship. And he is so annoying and so possessive and jealous, and it's never resolved. And it was very interesting talking to my students about it because they felt like this was so over the top exaggerated and no high schooler actually acts like this. And I agreed with them. And there was no resolution to the fact that he was just like extremely over possessive and jealous. Like, they don't address that whatsoever. And she doesn't take any time for herself, and she just continues to let him use her as his crutch of getting through his own problems. And so, yeah, I didn't love this as much as the first time around I read it. I don't know why I love this so much, but there's that. Okay, let's see if my battery lasts for the rest of this video because it is flashing at me. Then I read Written by Catherine Moon, and this one I gave 3 stars as well. I just didn't really love this. It was very, very slow. Our heroine is a librarian in training at this magic library, and she doesn't think she has any powers, and this coven of witches of 3 guys decide they want her to be in their coven because they really like are intrigued by her. And there's this monster released, and that's really all that happens. The monster was very anticlimactic until the end, and I really wanted a lot more action in here. It was just very, very slow developing, but it kind of fell instant love between her and the guys because I feel like there wasn't enough relationship development, and it was just very slow. Like, not a lot even happened, and I struggled to even read these 200 pages. It took me so long to get through it. So I know Samantha loves this. I'm definitely intrigued and interested in reading more about Catherine Moon, but this one, just 3 stars for me. Then I read Bad Dream by Gianna Darling. This is the prequel, and so we just get to see how Bianca and Tiernan meet, and Bianca is taking care of her 7-year-old brother who has epilepsy, and her mom is pretty much just like not interested in taking care of them, and she has a new boyfriend, which is Tiernan, who's gonna be our hero. The whole point is that her mom ends up dying, and that's why her and her brother are taken in by Tiernan, so we get all that prequel part to this. I enjoyed it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm really excited to continue on. I'm actually halfway through Guarding Temptation now, and I think this was a great start to introduce us to Bianca and Tiernan's relationship and how her relationship was with her mom and the background of her dad. I really enjoyed it. Very quick novella, but I'm excited that it set up the next book really well. Then I read To Catch an Earl by Kate Bateman, and I loved this. Our heroine's a jewel thief, and she's stealing jewels though to return to France, and I think like the French crown she's taking over when her dad was a jewel thief. And our hero was newly made an earl, and he is trying to track down this jewel thief. And the hero and heroine meet in the beginning at a masquerade ball, and they're completely smitten with each other. They kiss, they are like, this is amazing, but then they don't see each other for a couple years, I think. And he remembers her scent though. He like remembers how she smelled and the perfume she had, and so he smells it in the street at the beginning of this book, and he's like, oh my gosh, who is that? Like, where is she? And then he slowly realizes that the woman that he loves is the thief, and it creates so much angst and tension, and I just love this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I love how she was a thief, and she was still high class though, so it wasn't really social difference, but it was more like, I'm on the right side of the law, you're on the wrong side of the law, but we love each other, and I love that trope. So this one, so good. I can't wait to read the next book in the series. Then I read The Princess Stakes by Amelie Howard. This one I listened to on audio, and the first half takes place at sea, and I loved that. So our heroine's father is assassinated in India. She's a princess, and so she's on the run, and she has to make her way to England because her mother was British, and so she stows away on this ship, and she had asked to board it and was told no, but they figure out a way to get on, and it's actually the Duke who, I'm pretty sure he's a Duke, right? Yes. He was a Duke who she was madly in love with and then had to break up with him, and she was supposed to get married to someone else, so he hates her for it. Like, they have a lot of tension between them. He is so angry at her for their relationship ending, even though it wasn't her fault, so that made me really annoyed with him for constantly holding that over her, of her breaking up their relationship. But he's so angry that she's on his ship, so he makes her his cabin boy and makes her do really bad chores and serve him, but there's like so much tension and angst between them. And then they arrive in America and decide to fake date, which was really cool. They like fake an engagement so that his mom's off his back because he's trying to be a duke and he doesn't want to get married, and she needs protection because she is half British, half Indian, and people are really racist and really prejudiced against what her mom had done when she was living in the UK. And so she is also running from an assassin. So this one had a lot of different things to the plot, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it. I do think the second half is not as good as the first half. I loved when they were at sea, and the second half was a lot more slow, and I didn't love it as much, but I still really enjoyed this, and I would definitely recommend reading it. Then I listened to Devil by Ashley Jade, and this book was crazy, and I don't want to say too much about the plot. We have a girl living with a man, and things happen, and we flash back to that man in high school, and things happen, and we understand why the man is the way he is today, and other characters, and this was crazy. Like, what did I just read? It's definitely very dark and taboo, so know that going in. If you have a problem with those kind of romances, you're gonna absolutely hate this. But I was like, at the end, my jaw just dropped. I was like, what did I just read? It was crazy, and I was thoroughly entertained, so I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. There's definitely a cliffhanger, and I have no idea who the romance is supposed to be between, but I'm intrigued, and I want to learn more. Like, it could be a possibility of romance with a couple of people, and I just like, who is supposed to be with who? I don't even know, and I don't even know who I like. I don't even know who I can trust. I have no idea, but I'm excited to continue on. Then I read the novella The Witch's Wolves by Ella Mae McGregor. In this one, our heroine is running from wolves. She is a witch, and then arrives at this cottage with these 2 wolves in it. It's like a Little Red Riding Hood retelling, and it's very short, very steamy, and I didn't love it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was okay. I wasn't like fully invested in the story, and she just like saw these 2 wolves in a cottage and just spent some time with them, and I was like, okay. Not a lot to it. Didn't love it, but didn't hate it, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And that is my wrap up for the first half of October. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you read in October and what you loved and what you thought about these books. I would love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.